Welcome back, everybody. We got match 2 underway. It's going to be the Dallas Fuel versus the Shanghai Dragons. I'm excited to see how this plays out because I'm looking forward to this, Avro. I'm not going to lie to you. This is like the former Twirple match that we get to finally see come back again and alive. And is Fleta is the meta? Can Fleta tank wrong the doubters and lift the Dragons? Well, we're going to have to see because Fleta tank maybe figures some things out by not dying in that last series that the Shanghai Dragons played in.
Well, you took us straight back to 2018 by bringing up the toilet bowl there in terms of Dallas and Shanghai and those dark years, and hopefully we're out of those dark years now. But currently in 2023, Dallas is still yet to get their first win. Can it be today? Can it be versus the Shanghai Dragons, who only themselves recently got their first win versus the Seoul Dynasty? So is Fleta still the meta? He definitely was proving the doubters wrong versus Seoul Dynasty last week. We'll have to do that again now versus Harbin, which I dare say is going to be some pretty tough competition. But Shanghai, I think they garnered a bit of confidence last week, because up until last week, it looked like Shanghai had no business getting a win off anybody. Most people would have been happy if Shanghai got a single map. They won the entire damn series, and now Dallas Fuel looking on enviously thinking, man, when is it our turn?
I'm not going to lie to you, Avro. During that first week of watching that was one series in APAC with the Dragons, I saw what Flitank was cooking, and I was like, he's playing this like it's Echo using duplicate, and I didn't know how this was going to transition. You know, when it comes to these two matches, I feel like, you know, that Kush Moon and Rush are definitely going to make sure that they cook the best thing possible, because I think there's so much on the table to determine what is going to be the outcome for both these teams after the series.
Yeah, when it's your 4th season at MasterChef and you're done with just the normal plates now, you're getting into some wacky stuff like, what kind of clown food can I make now? Because we've got to make the show interesting. That's what Moon and Rush currently are. As we figure out what this match looks like. I mean, in 2021, this was the greatest rivalry. The Dallas versus Shanghai rivalry in 2021 was amazing. It felt like almost every single tournament Hawaii matchup was these two. Many years have gone by now. Dallas most recently winning a championship in 2022. Shanghai doing the same in 2021, but let's go ahead and meet the Dallas Fuel.
Oh my gosh. I love this. Literally always gives me goosebumps.
Mode, and it feels like Simpreza are just defaulting to that far too quickly. Two slept. Ungodly connection there with the Rampage, and Harbin, he's come up with the goods again. The fielder goes down. It's gonna be a Sal Barry on for 4. One goes down. Went 3. The Dallas Fuel Overwatch League champions.
Mitch said at the
Seeing
end,
that
Overwatch League champions.
brings me back, and it literally always gives me goosebumps to watch that video. That was actually insane. And here, Legends currently right now, Dallas Fuel and this lineup. We talk about what we've already seen from the Dragons, what we've seen from the Dallas Fuel. After what's been going down in week number 2, they didn't have the best time, Avril. They had a better time, obviously, in that first week. They did beat the Guangzhou Charge 3-0, but now there's a lot on the table here when it comes to fighting off against a team who may start figuring things out after that second week.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't won yet. They've just got the one map versus Hangzhou, so they lost the Charge in week 1, lost the Spark and Infernal in the second week. That Infernal game in particular was not close at all. That was a more shocking loss, if anything. You would have expected Dallas to be a bit closer to the Infernal after playing the Spark fairly competitively. A lot of lessons to be learned over the last week, and you can see that Seoul Dynasty, just to speak on them a little bit here, because it does lead back to my point about Dallas Fuel. Toby looking at Void, subbing him in over Bellisria, playing more Junker Queen compositions, playing more Ram. I look at the Dallas Fuel today in week 3 thinking, is it maybe a chance for Harbin to bring up some more of the Ram? Because we've seen Harbin on Winston, not very inspiring. We've seen Harbin on the Junker Queen, extremely inspiring. That's what you want to see Harbin on it, but we're not in a Junker Queen meta. We're not on the live patch. Junker Queen isn't Omega Giga buffed. You can still play Junker Queen as a counter to the Winston, but for Harbin, you need to see it being expanded a little bit further out. Bring the Ram into play as well, because we'll have to see what Fleta wants to bring to the table, because Fleta so far has mostly played Winston, so there is a chance that Harbin just counters it with the Junker Queen, but I wonder if Fleta's got something else up his sleeve today.
And the brief amount of time that we also saw the Ryan at one point here too, as we take a look at the starting lineup right here. Harrison here too, Gangnam Jin, Fleta of course, Flatank, Viper, and Hisu. Let's talk about Viper, actually. He's been on another level. I love the performance that he brought to the table last week, Avril.
Player of the match, for a good reason as well. Viper was playing right up to Prophet on the Tracer and matched him, sometimes even diffed him. Was honestly a breakout rookie performance for Viper after what was quite a disappointing opening 2 matches for the Shanghai Dragons. Match number 3 ends up being the one that gets Shanghai across the board, and Viper leads the way on that Tracer. The stat line that I'll keep bringing up that was the standout stat line for Viper for Shanghai that week was the 50% pulse bomb stick rate over 4 maps. 4 maps that Shanghai played, and over the course of all 4 of those maps versus the Seoul Dynasty, Viper somehow maintained an average 50% stick rate. As you take a look at that stat line now in terms of the comparison for Tracer, 45% pulse bomb attach rate in 10 minutes over the course of the entire qualifier so far. So the 50% for me was just a match versus Seoul Dynasty. This is for Viper's entire Tracer gameplay throughout the entire season right now. Still at 45 over all the games, 3 matches.
Wow, that's actually crazy. 45% pulse bomb attach rate. I know for that one map alone, I believe it was when they beat the Seoul Dynasty, Viper had a 15% pulse bomb attach rate in that series. So it's just crazy to see how that's been able to rack up all together in the few games that Viper's been able to play with the rest of the Dragons. Now, how is that going to match up against Sparkle here as we transition into the series? I'm excited to see how this is going to play out.
Yeah, and Sparkle will need to be the guy that catches up here, as he's always been looked at under a microscope in terms of Tracer play. And I think his Tracer play has improved time and time again, year upon year. He's been called upon to play the Tracer for the Dallas Fuel and has been since 2021, if memory serves correct, and 2 years down the line now. He'll have to be beating out some rookies, as, I mean, Viper even had some great gameplay versus Prophet last week, and Prophet was one of the, still is, by the way, one of the best Tracers that we've had, not just in this region, but globally. So Sparkle's got a lot to live up to in terms of that matchup. It's the Hanbin carry, though, that I think will be the most important thing for the Dallas Fuel, and that's why I'm focusing so much on the tank matchup today.
It's going to be important to see how this is going to match up against Flat Tank out here. As we take a look at our first map, we're going to be starting things off on Nepal.
There's the Ram. As
we're going to get it. It's really happening here in APAC. I love it. I love to see this happening out here. Seeing the change-up already in week number 3. I mean, this is that last week that you can make these change-ups if you are trying to feel out what you feel more comfortable on. But yeah,
he's ready for it. Edison's got the fingers cracking. Didn't have the best performance on Sombra last week. Not going to be playing Sombra, at least not yet, for our opening map in Nepal. It's going to be the Rush Mirror in terms of the Ramatra Brawl, but it's going to be Kariko Bap on the Dragon side versus Alucia Bap on the Dallas Fuel side, so a lot more speed to work with for the Dallas Fuel, and also Dallas Fuel have the extra Meg, which I like, because the Meg is going to allow you to really do well in that matchup. Can he suit Viper, despite the Meg, get enough damage?
Oh, He's already having to back away. No matter that damage here from Edison on the other side. Lambun trying to take the counter rotate. Hisu on the other side gets caught in the vortex. Oh, we get saved by the immortality. Great timing coming out. Mira's here. That's the immortality that was forced out, but the Dragons take control of the point here first.
I think Ghanem used Suzu there as well, so that's both the immortalities gone, and despite that, Viper just runs in. Double Hans are dead.
Oh, but Han been winning the fight. Refletic here on the Ram. They're ramming their heads out here together. Dragons losing out more bodies as the rest of the fuel are now going to be able to retake this point now. Get some progress on the board.
Now Harmon comes up. Big fist swinging. Dragons are 20%. Now you get the initial point control capture. They should be able to get another fight going before the next 20% is up. Note the big difference in the Annihilation ult charge though, and with Viper and another First Blood, maybe that won't come to fruition as far as ult charge goes. Harmon desperately needs this Annihilation to hold on though. Viper nearly had a second.
Viper's always so good out here putting out that damage. Here's finding Ambit is huge here though. Now the Dragons could make their way onto this point. Already some of that space cleared out as MCD now makes his way in. He's about to get that window. He pulled it the immortality and it's not going to be enough after Viper clears him out. CD gets sent down, but Shanghai Dragons now have a lot to re-engage in here with some of their ults.
They talk about the fact that Shanghai Dragons are lacking the Mei for their engage. As Viper just says, I'll just do it myself and no Mei, no problem. Run in there, get the frag onto a solo member, blink away. Dallas were desperate to try and get a flip over in terms of a player trade, and we'll lose Harbin's life for it. So that gives Flitter a bit of time to catch up. Sparkle with the early blizzard.
Oh. No, this is what we can't be seeing out here. It was a change-up, but Fleta wasn't the first one to get picked usually here, and the Annihilation gets called in from Hambin. Everybody's stuck on that platform as they get cleaned up in the reset from Gundam Jin, as the Dragons are wiped from this point.
3 ultimates committed. I think the MC popped in the window of previous fight, actually, so that's not particularly this one, but 2 for this fight. Viper dropped in the pulse. That won't be Viper finding the first pick. And there's the Annihilation advantage coming through favorably for the Dallas Fuel as expected. Fleta couldn't catch up in time. Despite Viper doing some good heroics previously and Harbin dying. Edison, by the way, I think Hanzo traditionally has been one of his better heroes. Certainly when he was on old GC Busan Wave, this was one of his primary heroes.
The Dragons clear up so that room over to the other side. Rush is about to be online here for Gundam Jin. See Hisu with Fleta takes 3 inside of this room. 4, make it 4 here to take care of Sparkle as the sound barrier from Bliss gets called in. Fleta uses the Annihilation, finding 2, forcing everybody from the Fuel to hang out on the other side. All right, you have to make sure to clear up that other side of the corner, but they gotta first take this point because Fuel still are in control. It's already at 77%. Okay, there we go. Viper's able to take it over Bliss.
Harbin's trying to clutch this one through, but just doesn't have teammates. Still managed to run Eris down, which is not bad. Will slow down Dragons' ability to have all 5 available to not quite spawn hold, but hold the chokes. The cap comes through eventually, as I believe that was Viper getting the solo kill to Bliss to make sure that they can get the flip over, and Shanghai will now overtake the Dallas Fuel. But Dallas are in position, I think, to finish this map. Look at the ultimates online. Annihilation plus the 2 DPS ultimates. Dragon Strike on entry to flush the Dragons out. And Harbin's big rapid. Look at Harbin. He's going to run on the side.
Already ready to cut off the rotation with the Vortex there here too. Oh, this is such a nice counter rotate from the Fuel, literally sandwiching the Dragons, and with that Maywall that you mentioned at the very beginning too, helping them just literally filter them out inside this room. Now they take control over the point. Yes, it's overtime, 99% for Dragons, but now they have to try to find a way to re-engage here while Hambin and Sparkle still have their ults.
Exactly, and that's the most important thing. Harbin didn't pop the Annihilation, which means he can use it for the final fight. Might just use it here. Sparkle, good freeze.
Cleaned up, and only about 5 seconds left for the Dragons to try to contest on this point. See Viper just trying to get into position, but now they have to wait out on Fleta. Viper sends out the pulse bomb, doesn't get the pick, and he was right there, but not in time before the point is secured in favor for the Fuel for this first round.
Yeah, I don't think the touch would have mattered anyway. Harbin was still holding onto Annihilation, literally wins that without popping the second Annihilation. Holds it for what could have been the final fight if Viper did touch. The retake from Fuel was so clean though. Dragon Strike from Edison onto the high ground. Harbin big rapping around the side. Just beats them all down, saves Annihilation. This is where he did spin it though a little bit earlier. Guarantee the fight when Dragons were ahead. Dragons, you don't want to be caught here. Multiple members of the Dragons caught on coastal side. Nowhere to run except falling off the map. And what is this? It's going to be the Harbin Rhine. Over onto Village. I don't know that Flitter's ready for this one. Viper is at least going to come through on a May this time to help out the matchup, but it does mean they're not going to have that Tracer for the early pickoffs. They need to rely on these good walls, and Sparkle's been pretty good on the May. There's the first wall out. Viper next.
Oh, but Edison's got that extra time and space trying to set up those turrets. They do get destroyed almost immediately here too, and Fleta gets that pick onto MCD. They trade that for Viper. That's Iris going down here as well. 2 out for the Dragons now. Driver match out with Fuel, but everybody's fighting inside the side room. He's trying to get all that extra damage in, but with Sparkle's wall right there too to block the only exit, he cleans up everybody else that was inside that room.
Yeah, despite Harbin going down, you can just tell that Fuel is so... They're so practiced and so well oiled on any sort of brawl type compositions, and that's a Rush's specialty. It's in his name. It's called Rush for a reason. And every time Dallas Fuel get to sort of force these rush compositions, the Lucio Bap kind of deal, Lucio Carico even, anything like that, certainly do look good. Sparkle's had a ton of practice on the May. Should be okay here. Well ahead of Viper in terms of ult charge, who we didn't even get to see Viper put up a wall last time.
I'm gonna guess that pin onto Hisu too in the very back. We're gonna clear out this point. About to get Shatter all over again. They clean up the Dragons and another team fight win, and they have so much going into this next fight in terms of their ult.
They haven't had to spend anything, and they're way ahead of their counterparts, except for I think Bliss doesn't quite have the same amount of healing does Gundam Jin, but it's not because he's not as good. It's because Fuel have been winning so hard that Fuel haven't been taking damage. If you don't take damage, you don't get healing done. Plus, you're kind of funneling healing into MCD anyway, so what little healing there is, MCD's got it all for a window.
Sparkle says no as the rest of the Dragons teleport onto this high ground, puts down the Shatter.
I think Viper blocked it.
Right on time there too, but that also gives the green light for Fled to just use the Annihilation here. Gonna be able to clean up everybody that was inside of that room, but that was an interesting rotation from the Dragons that worked out amazingly in their favor to take the high ground.
I think that was actually an accidental block from Viper as well. He just kind of put up the wall to block off the Dallas field, and Harmbin happened to go for the Shatter at the same time, so yeah, the entire Shatter just went nowhere for the Dallas field, and they didn't commit too much else in there. I believe the window from MCD. Thought maybe Sparkle would also drop in the Blizzard to engage the fight, to secure the fight. That didn't end up happening. And we've got the cross-section walls.
Beautiful wall placement from Sparkle on the other side to put down that Blizzard as well, cut off that only exit. Both photon barriers up. Mortality already used up from Iris as well as MCD, but Blizz has that sound barrier. That's a change up here. Viper's about to have that Blizzard. See how that's going to be able to control that space in the middle. Zombie's trying to get away, but he can't run. The wall blocks him, and then the Blizzard gets unleashed. No immortality field. They still found Viper in the process, but it's fine. Dragons still have more bodies here, but they need to try to retake this point because you're already nearing 80% in favor for fuel.
This is so annoying for Edison, but he'll win that fight anyway. And the rest of the Dallas field, once again, despite losing harm, but it's the other 4 members that can still hold strong, still win the fight, 83-34. Looking fairly one-sided as Dragons will most likely, yeah, they'll just have the one shot to come back in with a single sound barrier, which, to be fair, sound barrier was going to win the fight previously. They don't have a TP though. Hisu moving over towards the Hanzo is interesting. I mean, okay, you can get some scouting done, maybe an early pickoff, but I would have imagined the TP would have been of utmost importance to get onto the point in time.
He's prioritized that, especially when Edison's already set up now that they had the point previously. It's gonna be difficult. The wall is going up. Online, Hambit also has that Shatter ready. Photon already called in. They find Hisu. It's so difficult to find any sort of angle to approach this point. Sound barrier activated from Gun Ninja, but they are getting melted. The Shatter for some extra measure. The nail in the coffin for Iris, and nobody left from the Dragons to stay on this point as the Fuel, a nice clean 2-0 fashion, take map number 1.
Clean indeed. I think that's the best word to use to describe it. They looked, again, very practiced on this rush composition, even though MCD and Bliss haven't been on this team. The Harm and Sparkle Edison trio, they know what their roles are, they know what their job is, they know exactly how to play these types of comps. MCD's worked with Rush before previously, and Bliss is a more than capable Lucio player who's well renowned for his Lucio play on O2 Blast and the other teams that he's been on, so it doesn't surprise me at all that Dallas feel once they can start forcing more of these brawl type compositions that they're finding more success. Especially versus Shanghai, who are more than willing to try and play some of their own brawl. We haven't seen that before. You've never seen Fleta on the Ramatra. I don't think Fleta's going to give the Ryan a go at this stage, so Dallas Fuel know there's not going to be a Ryan versus Ryan matchup. So they know they're going to play either Ram into Ram or Ryan into Ram, and both of those are very comfortable for the field.
Beautiful looks here from the field. I also really like how coordinated they were, even being able to retaliate, save some of those ults to cycle through for that final fight. The Maywall also coming in clutch here for the Dallas Fuel, but taking the lead already after taking Nepal, we are moving on to map number 2. That's going to be on Hollywood on the other side of this break. Welcome back, everybody. Dallas Fuel take map number 1, and they are looking nice and coordinated. Now, as we move on to map number 2, we are going over to Hollywood. We're seeing no change up. We're sticking through what we got in store for us, Avril. And I'm wondering here, with the difference of how Dallas Fuel looked, especially on that first round, I'm not over how they use the Dragons to just funnel the rest of the Dragons out from that side hallway and then meet up with Hanbin on the other side of that was incredible. I just love the coordination that we're seeing from the Fuel.
Creative stuff coming through from the Fuel, as expected when you play concept. The Fuel have always been well practiced on, I'll say that word again, but also comfortable on them. It's their bread and butter. It's what they know well. You're not going to see substitutions because, well, neither of the teams really have substitutions. Yeah, I mean, Bebe exists, but he's a player coach for the Dragons, so not expecting him to play at all. 3 flex supports on that team. In any case, Hollywood should be like a D.Va Winston dive map. So this is going to be Flitter Winston with Hanbin D.Va / Hanbin looking to maybe counter the Winston with the Junker Queen. Could be on the cards here. A comfortable lead for the Dallas Fuel. I don't think they can force the brawl again on this map. Maybe a little bit later on. Maybe Lee Junkertown if we get that far. But if we get that far, Shanghai doing something right.
They would have woken up or figured something out at least here in this matchup, because again, that first map looked pretty dominating so far for them. And like you pointed out, what we could expect here and on Hollywood. Also wondering what we could see differently from the Dragons if they want to change things up themselves, because that
Just
brawl
Winston,
that was forced out. I mean, yeah, just maybe stick it to the Winston, but because that Ram brawl comp was not looking the best in terms of this meeting that Ditto matchup, but Fled unfortunately was cut a lot too by those walls. We saw at the very end Viper putting up his own wall to deal with the shatter from Hanbin. That was nicely timed. Wasn't sure if that was on purpose or not, but seeing now that the Dragons are also starting off on attack, what are your thoughts here with what the Dragons could do differently?
Well, I think just playing a Winston comp with Viper and Tracer is number 1, but secondly, let's talk about the Hanbin Stin. That's right. I've been thinking up about different names. I'll land on that one.
She's out. It's coming out.
Speaking of out, Sparkle's out. And Fuel have to back out. They lost a player.
That's exactly what Hanbin does. Jumping away, giving some of that space over to the Dragons. Iris gets hit with a huge anti, and then Hanbin just straight up capitalizes here. The Dragons.
Tracer's life for it, though.
Trying to pull it in here, yeah.
I mean, okay, you get Iris down, but how do you how can you retake without your tank? I suppose Blitz can just frontline on Brig. Dragons are kind of scared, though. Whoa, Dragons should be pushing up. This is a 4v4 that Dragons should be taking for sure. You have a tank and the other team doesn't. What's going on?
They backed away entirely here, just disengaged by the choke point. Other than that side hallway, they do try to take control over the high ground. MCD gets hit with a pretty big anti. Bliss falls incredibly low. They need to do something about this backline as they find MCD here. They're finding the opportunity. And that was a nice anti initially from Iris, and finding 2 here is going to allow the Dragons to already get those first 2 ticks.
So, Hanbin just gets Iris every time. That's a tax. He'll just get his 1 kill to Iris and leave it at that. I was thinking that okay, Shanghai, despite not pushing the 4v4 and allowing Hanbin to respawn back in, they actually still get the dive they want to. Straight to the backline. Kisu is the difference maker there. Gets plenty of damage down the Hanzo. Leads on the Dragon Strike by a fair margin, and this is my fear from the Dallas Fuel, where, okay, you look amazing on Brawl compositions, but as soon as you go back on a Winston composition, it was back into week 1. And the week 1 Dallas Winston composition was not good.
Honestly, it was non-existent. And listen here, Fuel just do not have a Winston. Ooh, Sparkle coming in with the pulse. Nice first big pick here. No nano boost. And Ganum Jin going down here too. That's going to be the disengage coming in from the Dragons.
All played by Sparkle. Brilliant stick that sets the pace. Hisu Edison with the cherry on top. The other Hanzo player finally making his mark on this particular map, as Hisu did send out the Dragon Strike to no avail. Look at Edison, the defensive Dragon Strike now to retake payload with if required. And at this stage, I mean, Shanghai, despite winning the fight on A to capture the point, they're not really ahead on ultimates anymore. Dallas Fuel evened out completely.
They would have had the positional advantage once they were on that higher ground, but it was taken away from them thanks to Sparkle. Nice anti onto Hanbin, but Hisu going down to Hanbin right afterwards in his face here too, while they still hold on to this high ground is beautiful. Somebody needs to do something about Edison here.
Well, Viper did send out the pulse bomb and he missed, so that's the tail side of the coin of the 50%. Because it is 50%, surely that means next time he gets a stick. So, you know, one miss, one stick. So that stat line works. Still holding to 3 ults means Ares can nano flatter for this fight. MCD already threw his one out onto Harbin a little bit earlier. No progress though being made here. This is very slow for Dragons. Surely an opportunity.
Oh, what?
It looked like... Okay, Edison and Flitter jumped together, but Edison cleared them both. Let's say Edison, Flitter, Viper and Flitter jumped together, but Edison cleared them both. And no nano for Flitter. Surely you lead that fight with a nano into Flitter. Harbin might be forced to primal here. Oh, it's unlucky.
Oh, he does. He's literally pushing them right back to the spawn room doors. Yours gets hit with an anti here too, but that was nasty from Edison. Oh, but did use that primal, so he won't have it for this next engagement for this fight. Yeah.
And that's the thing is like you don't want to be spawn camping and get slept, and then that forces the primal, which you would have preferred to use elsewhere. So they're just kind of soloing with the primal. Again, they're not engaged with the nano. They're just primaling straight away, which is, I don't think, the optimal thing to do on a dive.
Oh, that was coming in. Yuri's being able to find Edison's huge because he was the biggest threat on that high ground as the Dallas Fuel are forced off of it. But they're going to be able to isolate MCD. Doesn't get that pick. Nadabu's coming in onto Hanbin. Was taken out earlier by Hisu here. Nice anti onto Fleta. MCD's been on top of these antis here, but nothing to capitalize off of Fleta going down since Sparkle wasn't there to get the follow-up.
Taylor's moved up, by the way. Oh my god,
what?
Viper, how about that? We talk about the heads and tails. He missed the first one, but he doubles up on the number 2.
Let me show you the stat card real quick. He gets the double after missing one earlier on and make up for it. And also, they isolated them over to the right side.
If you get a double on the next pulse one, does it undo the one he misses?
I'll write it off.
Just give it to him. We'll undo the miss.
You have to.
100%.
Like,
let's call that one 100% so far.
It's PEMDAS right here. He notes it. He memorizes it. Now the Dragons are going to be able to try to re-engage here. They do have that rally as well as Bliss, but the Fuel have so much to work with in clearing up that middle area.
Huge amount of progress. The Dragons had not a lot of payload movement up until that fight. Dragons open things out onto Fleta, who does not get out. Oh, jump question mark?
Isolated him. I think he used it. He used it right before that, unfortunately. He was isolated from the rest of his team, and the Dragons cut him off, and that's going to be another reset here for the Dragons.
The Dragons have run out of pace a little bit here. You need Hisu to do some magic, maybe versus Sparkle, who he's got sights on. Viper as well. They both want Sparkle. Despite all that, Sparkle gets out. It's Edison under pressure with the Bionade.
Oh, Edison again with these headies, finding Viper, causing the problem for the Dragons to be stopped. Always in the right spot here too, finding those headies. That gets hit with another anti. Edison finds another, now onto Hisu. The rally being forced out by this choke point while the Dallas Fuel could just disengage around the corner, wasting more time for the Dragons.
Eddie has surely found the steadiest of the steady Eddie heroes now. This one's right at the top of the list. Sombra, never heard of her. All about the Hanzo here for Edison. The rest of ultimates have caught up now for the Dallas Fuel. A deep dive by Fleta.
Misses out on that pulse right here too. And with the primal, Nano Boost onto Hanbin now. Again, stopping the Dragon's backline, but he gets put to sleep immediately. Fleta also lose out his life because it's Eddie, as you were saying it earlier before, now going to be able to find Fleta, unfortunately for him. And clean that up at the very end. He's literally pushing once again right past this choke point. He's to get taken out. I'm going to get him put to sleep, but it's fine. He's got into 7 hours of sleep. He's up and alive. He's going to be able to get right back to his team.
I'm surprised at how far Fuel are chasing this. They are not quite going to the Shanghai spawn, but not far from it either. I was going to say Sparkle would be lucky to get out alive there, and Viper make sure that no luck is on board for Sparkle, and maybe a 5v4 is what the Dragons need to start pushing up, unless Edison has something to say about it. He's been on fire in terms of actually finding these picks. He's the lobby leader for final blows on 7. And you get a little bit more here with the final minute of Shanghai left to go through. It's Eris on the Harmon. That's bad news for Fuel.
The opportunity that the Dragons needed here too. Oh, the Sparkle pulse bomb stick onto Iris. No Nano Boost online. Sparkle can't get away. He's supposed to be able to find him on the other side. And this is going to be the progress that the Dragons needed. They have less than a minute on the clock now.
Looking unlikely to cap, unless we make some magic happen. Still some good ultimates though. One good push left to go for the Shanghai Dragons. About 4 ultimates online, no primal. And Dallas will only looking at the Bliss rally to break them free, and Gundam Jim will be able to match that. Keep Hanbin alive. He cannot fall again. Same is true for Fleta, who's in Nano.
Ooh, trying to get into a flanking opportunity. Sends out the pulse bomb, unfortunately misses. The Dragons also get unleashed at the same time to try to sandwich the fuel. Lack of coordination here now, as overtime is going to be activated. They have to stay right by the payload. On any accidents happening, like we saw in our last series now, as overtime is activated. Gananidum is going to be able to activate now the rally here too, but MCD is going to have the nano boost alive here. His hand, Amdin is going to be able to jump in. No sleep put onto him, as he's going to be able to try to harass Ganamjin that has the rally activated, as well as Isu, who tries to run away to safety. He's trying to clear this point, but it was enough time for Fleta to also get this primal online. They're still taking away. No health here. What? No. They got it all the way to the end. They got it all the way to the end, and it was thanks to Fleta and this primal pushing everybody by the spawn room doors.
Yeah, they got him down. Edison, Sparkle, Harbin, all dead. Ran out of ultimates, ran out of time. Fleta still had the sneaky primal built up at the end. Ended up being enough. Was it OT? No, 25 seconds. They even got all time, didn't they? That's hugely important. Actually, I have to double check that if that's the case. So, the double pulse bomb. As I said earlier, he's stuck one. Sorry, he's missed one, stuck one that got two, then missed another one. So, mathematically, I mean, I kind of still count that as a 50-50. I don't know about you.
Yeah, that's the pep. It cancels itself out.
Yeah, I think it cancels out. So, okay, no time left. I lied. It's a 0-second cap. So, OT cap, which does mean that Dragons now will... I mean, they finished the map, which is good, but they cannot allow the Dallas field to finish with more than 1 minute. They have to make sure that if Dallas also finished the map, it's less than 1 minute.
For that extra time, they'll be sitting at match point here, getting everything set up. Though, gotta talk about the timing on that primal at the very end for Fleta. It was absolutely huge. Also looking at the stats too, Viper doing his best, putting in a good amount of work, trying to harass the backline, but it's so difficult when Edison has just been finding all these headies.
I mean, he's struggled in the first 2 weeks, but seems to be on fire today, and I kind of felt the energy. Watched it in the player cam, he looked ready. Steady Eddie's ready. And he's been showing that so far. Definitely on the hard zone. Even map 1, even looking at Nepal, Dallas feel the entire team was comfortable. But here, as mentioned, Edison is the lobby leader for Final Blow. Still remaining as the lobby leader after all of that. See if he retains that for the rest of this map. As Hisu's currently on 20%. Good damage up on the defense start with.
Wasn't expecting any change anyways here too. Just sticking to what we saw in that first round here. Dragonal just trying to find an opportunity. Gets hit with that anti. Huge anti onto Hanbin. He doesn't get away in time. Mow him down after getting hit by Iris. Fleta gets put to sleep now by MCD. See that 1v1 happening on the other side by Viper and Sparkle. And Sparkle is just going to blink away right back to the rest of the Dallas fuel here as a reset happens.
And both the Annas are pretty close on Nano so far as well. You expect normally the attacking Anna to be ahead. But not if Harbin dies. You imagine a situation where Harbin actually lives there, but low HP. That healing or all that missing health is translated to healing for MCD.
Oh.
Iris gets that sleep again. He's been on point and shutting down Harbin.
Right in the air there, too. Down like an eagle. Viper sending out the pulse. Does it get the stick? But he still gets the pick.
He's ruining his stat line. It's below 50 now. Come on.
Don't worry, everyone. He's just building up into a triple soon enough. Soon enough as Edison gets another headshot onto Fleta. Make it 2 onto Iris. Huge anti, but the recall just cancels it out. 3 alive for Dragons. Viper doesn't have any more recall, so he has to go to the health pack.
Nano's online for MCD as well, ahead of Iris. So this is, again, attacking side. Anna has that advantage. Deployed onto Harbin. It should be enough. Gangnam down. Shanghai are going to have to reset big time here. I think they don't go for the retake just yet. You can afford to give away a couple of ticks here. Fleta cannot die, that's for sure. You also
just in time.
Oh my god, Viper slept by MCD. That's big.
Absolutely, he could have made a play with that pulse bomb here too. Sparkle doesn't get his play. Edison was able to finish off what was left of Viper after he got put to sleep. Fleta does have that primal, and Viper will be able to re-engage soon. That's the good part. He is on that tracer obviously here. Ambit is about to get that primal as Fleta's going to be able to back away in time, but they got to recontest right on time. Huge here though, right into the nade and into a shield bash there too. Right through that choke point. Unfortunately, not going to be able to stop the fuel.
Yeah, Fleta was looking like he was having some fun there playing Winston parkour, but he kind of just parkours straight into an MCD nade, which cleans him out, and Dallas Field will get the cap after that. Plenty of time remaining here as well. Oh, actually, well... No, actually not a lot of time remaining. That took nearly the whole 4 minutes, I lie. So Dallas... Oh, do they? No, okay. I lied twice, so I'm going to stop lying now. It's a good amount of time. I'm going to land in the middle. We're just going to even out in the middle. It's an acceptable amount of time for the Dallas Field. What's better than the time, though, is the fact that they afford control on the high ground here. And Shanghai Dragons are trying to retake as quickly as possible. The nade on the Harbin helps.
Oh, we'll try to yeet it from across. Bliss, though, does find Iris and only leaving Gunamjin to help sustain the rest of the Dragons. The rally isn't going to be enough to keep Hisu and Fleta alive. And the Fuel, only using up the rally here, MCD for this next fight is going to have the nano boost that he's going to be able to have those Dragons to clear up that extra space. And they get to retake the high ground here while moving this payload.
And that's the biggest point. The payload's been kind of moving freely the entire way through. Edison's just been making sure that the payload is consistently getting distance no matter what Fuel are doing. They have better positioning here with payload distance. Ultimate's online. Shanghai Dragons far less to work through, but Shanghai Dragons are at least out of spawns. They're not stuck in the choke anymore.
Oh, that pulse bomb. He almost got the 180 real quick. Misses the stick. He just still falls down. He just get that trade off of Viper, though. That's full TPS out, and Fleta's about to meet them right back in the spawn. Literally living with a pixel of health. How does he get away? Actually insane, but they can't recontest the payload. It has not stopped since they got through that first choke point. Insane.
And he lives for a while, but they'll chase him down after the cap comes through. And Harmon does a great job of isolating double supports there. Gangnam Jim and Ares both caught out. Harmon doesn't need to kill them, but as long as both supports are looking at Harmon, they're not healing, and Shanghai Dragons can't win without their supports. And well, Fleta can't last at all. He did a good job just to last. Well, he did a good job to stay alive as long as he did, but eventually the Dallas Fuel pressure catches up. Dragon Strike is going to be dodged out, but will prevent the Shanghai Dragons from contesting for now.
Wave at them before he set up those Dragons real quick, just right by the wall. Knew exactly where they wanted to rotate through, and Viper stops Edison as he jumps right down from the high ground. Getting away is Hamid after he gets hit with a huge anti. Nice follow from Viper. Just trying to stop this momentum that the rest of the
Good
He made him build up for himself. Oh my goodness. Viper! He's angry. He's woken up. He's cleared them out. But it's still not before they were able to get that second point, which is incredibly important here with that extra time bank.
I was going to say Hisu could have given the 4K over, but Hisu needs the ult charge. Viper doesn't. See where this pulse ends up landing. Great chase. I mean, Viper just catching up to MCD, following him up the elevator. Good blink mechanics. Shanghai need more than that, though. Because I told you before, Dallas cannot finish with more than 1 minute if Shanghai want a chance to win this map. Otherwise, it's a draw-only scenario. And currently, Dallas still have plenty of time to play through. Minute 30 to get this cap done. Which they can do off the back of these next few ultimates. Not quite there for Viper, though.
Messing up those stats, and the stats don't lie. The primal was activated. Testing the payload once again as Sparkle takes a different off angle. He's got that pulse bomb ready, looking at all the things that Fuel have ready to engage with. It's a nano boost. Hamban's got the primal. You see the pulse bomb pick onto Hisu. For saying, you know, I got some of that in the tank here too. Both DPS out from the Dragons. The Split is going to meet them right back in the spawn, and it's just a clean up from Edison to just clear out some more of that space here.
That was a team wipe, right? Pretty much. It was either 4 or 5 kills. In either case, it's more than enough. Primal plus rally. Good survivability. That's what you want. Longevity, and Edison will get you the 5v4 as well. Shut down Viper. Dragons, desperation. Gunamjin, he has the rally straight away.
Oh, the rally, he shield bashed away, so that's none of my business. Gets right into the lovely hands of Iris.
Gunamjin's dead.
Oh, Fleta, yeah, out. Just dead. The rest of the Dragons just get cleaned up by the Fuel. Wow. Nobody left to contest this payload. That was actually insane, the way that they were able to time that as the Dragons were rolling out of spawn like that.
Yep, and now Dragons can't win the map. They can only draw the map. Dallas 131 to get 1 tick. More than doable, unless Harmon gets sniped out again to start with, which you don't want to happen here. You can definitely build a nano in 130. So nano timings for MCD here, I'm expecting surely within 110. Let's take a look at this pulse again. It wasn't even a stick, just on the floor, but Hisu can't get out in time. I think he already used his lunge. How on earth does Edison hit that shot? I cannot tell you, but he does.
He's built different. Look at that. Catches him in the air as he tries to get away. Always there to get the follow-up there, too, just in case MCD lands one of those sleep darts, too. All right, finishing off with 1 minute and 31 seconds for the Dallas Fuel.
So as mentioned, just a single nano here to confirm it. MCD should be able to get it faster than Eris. As long as Harmon doesn't die during the charging phase, he'll get it on time. The par for A timings on nano should be about 110. 1 would be really quick, but about 110 I think is acceptable for MCD here. Unless they're not going to do that at all. And they're going to change comps to a Lucio, Kuriko, Genji. Okay, so instead of relying on Nope, nope, they're not doing that. Okay, alrighty. Thank you.
Gotta keep you on your toes.
I was gonna say, that means instead of Nano, we're waiting for Katsuna Rush, but I think the Nano is more reliable for this point I take.
Gonna be rolling out with here too, as Hisu's trying to get into position on the high ground over by that platform. I would not want to be in the line of sight of Edison with the way that he's been able to find some of these sightline, all this damage that he's been able to hit with these headies.
Well, they already have the center high ground control, which is nice to see. Well, Harman's taking some risks there. He's got to be careful. He gets taken down here. That's really bad. But again, you're transferring health into healing here for MCD. And MCD needs this Nano with at least 20 seconds remaining on the clock.
Also forces Hisu off that high ground, which makes him reposition and gives more room for Dallasville to work with through his sight lines, funneling all the dragons inside of the back of the point here, forcing them to also counter-rotate over to the left side. It's basically sandwiching them. Sparkle with that 50-50 tosses out. That Postman doesn't get the stick, even though he blinks forward, and Viper gets set down. They gotta do something, but Edison, who's just literally just taking control for free here. The rest of the fuel clear out the rest of the dragons here. And now, with that one take, that's all they needed, Avril. That's all she wrote. As a Dallas Fuel will take now map number 2 and sit at match point.
And for those curious, MCD does indeed get the Nano in time, but they don't even need it because they already had all the frags required. Harman goes in, gets the frags. Edison 1v1 kills Viper, and the Dallas Fuel sail their way home. A single attempt, 131 on time is all they need for a single tick. That was perfectly done. Dallas Fuel lead 2-0 and are on their way to getting their first match win in the 2023 season.
You love to see it here, especially against Dragons, who seem to start figuring things out last week versus their last series here. But unfortunately, in that last map specifically, we saw quite a bit of a dip between Hanbin and Pledis. And let's talk about Hanbin and that Winston, too, that he's trying to get better with. But he had 26 elims by the end of that game versus Pledis, who had 15. Pledis had died 11 times, which is almost half of what Hanbin's survivability was. So even between the insane survivability and the impact that Edison had with those elims, it was a very difficult situation for Fleta to be in when it came to trying to dive onto those high grounds.
We saw a lot of, just speaking of Edison, we saw a lot of Hisu kind of diffing Edison sorry, not Hisu and Edison haven't played each other yet, but Hisu kind of diffed Lil P in the matchup versus Seoul Dynasty previously, but here it's going to be Edison taking him down. Even though this clip is specifically of Hisu taking Edison down. Edison ends the lobby, retaining his scoreline as a lobby leader for Final Boys of 16.
Actually, it's saying out here, we got another map underway. We're moving over to Junkertown. You don't want to miss it, because Dallas Fuel are currently sitting at match point, and they'll be on the other side of this break. Welcome back, everybody. The Dallas Fuel are sitting at match points, and if you went and preded the Shanghai Dragons, then I'm sorry for your copium because it is looking rough out here. Dallas Fuel are looking great. Map number 3, we're going to be moving on to Junkertown, Avril, and if you thought Edison was popping off there on the high ground, hitting those headies, you already know what's going to happen here on Junkertown.
The Widowmaker surely comes through here if we're going to see some sniper compositions. Harbin obviously has the option to go towards the Sigma as well. For a map like Junkertown, that will always be a great pick. And well, for Flatter, I think it's just going to be the Winston. There's not much more the Flatter can play. Actually, the Flatter could go Sigma as well. He did play Sigma in week 1. I don't know if that's really going to be a good option, though. You're up against the Harbin Sigma. That could be a bit of a gap. For Shanghai Dragons right now, down 0-2. You talked about the Preds coming through for maybe Dragons beating Field today. Could the reverse sweep happen? The start of the reverse sweep. Can anyone manifest a reverse sweep for the Shanghai Dragons? Because otherwise, Dallas Fuel, they just look like the much better team across the board, whether we're playing brawl composition mirrors, playing some dive mirrors as well. Dallas have been better across the board. Taking a look at these stats between MCD and Eris. And yeah, 3 deaths versus 10 is the first thing that sticks out to me.
Whew, that's actually insane. What a difference out here between both these players. We've seen some crazy antis coming out, but we highlighted from MCD, especially on that last map, especially with the follow-ups that opened things up for Hanbin. But man, this has just been such a big difference. I'm wondering, you know, that dub against the Dynasty definitely fooling a lot of people out here. The Dragons had downloaded something, but it's taken a little bit for it to be done to see that final product.
And just by the way, looking at these stats, it's interesting because, you know, out in the ether, in the wild out there, the plains on the internet, I did see a comment appear on the internet that said, man, MCD is getting diffed by Eris, and MCD just looks at that and comes up with those stats and says, no, I don't think I will. I don't think I will. Not today.
Not gonna have it. Junkertown moving over to our 3rd map. It's again, Dallas Fuel, if you guys are just tuning in, taking out the scoreboard. They're currently sitting at match point, and Edison woke up and chose violence. Truly. They're looking fantastic out here. Shanghai Dragons, though, we talk about the DPS lineup from Dallas Fuel between Sparkle and Edison. Also nice to highlight Viper, but I just want to look at more clear dives coming in from the Dragons, because Viper definitely has these opportunities where it looks like he shines, especially getting the first pick on his entry points and being able to have these shiny moments, but it's never really capitalized off of, unfortunately.
Hisu as well has been a lot quieter than Edison in that Hanzo matchup. You need to see him step up, as Hisu was phenomenal last week versus Seoul Dynasty on this map specifically. He brought out the Widowmaker and annihilated PH in that Widow head-to-head. So we'll see if Edison decides to do the same. Although, to be fair, I think if you're looking at this Dallas Fuel team, it might be better for Edison to stay on the Hanzo. But what does Sparkle play? Is he going to go towards the Tracer? He is. That is not even going to think about the Sigma as expected. This will be Shanghai Dragons Tracer Sombra comp. So they're going to be bringing out the same comp as Spark had earlier. I teased the fact that Dallas Fuel might think about the Sigma. There it is. I don't know if they'll stay on the Sigma, given that Dragons are on this Winston composition. Harbin might think about swapping as the Diva instead. Actually, it could just be a Diva to help Edison the early shot, and I don't know if Edison stays either. Yeah, there it is. I think Hanzo's just been good for Edison so far today. Don't take him off the hot hands hero.
He's feeling himself. Ride with the momentum, especially if you've been finding that success. Love that look here. Hanbin with the Divas automatically going to be able to clear that high ground, get to that spot just as quick, trying to give some space for Edison to get into position, at least on the left side, before Viper tries to contest him. Stop the hack here too, with Hisu being on the Sombra. Gonna play into that win come with Hisu wanted to get that EMP, but it is gonna be that quiet build up here, unless Edison could get one of those insane picks off of the high ground.
I was gonna say all quiet on the western front here as Edison works his way around. Trying to see if they can get this payload out of the chokehold, this little kill box area of the map. And there it is. Edison indeed will be the one to open things up.
It's the standoff out here. He found that opportunity off to the left and was able to find Eurus over on the high ground. Immediately finds that retaliation. Viper with a pulse bomb. Remember, he missed a few of those by the end of the last map here. He's got to make up for it now to keep the stat line up. MCD goes down. You trade that here. Flood has to make his way right back to the rest of the Dragons.
Once Fleder's return, I think things start to look a lot better, especially with Hisu's damage output. Hisu's traditionally one of the better Sombras that we've seen in the league's history. Sparkle lucky to get, I mean, he was hacked up against like 2 to 3 people, survives. Viper not so lucky. Edison's had his number multiple times now over multiple maps. EMP's just about ready.
is eating out here. EMP activated, it does fine too, but Sparkle coming in with that pulse bomb to Gundam Jim stops the rally engagement from Dragons. It's gonna have to be another reset, and that's gonna also wipe that win con that they wanted to build into out of the field for that fight, especially for this next choke point that they're gonna be able to take for free.
The stare down arrows with the right click of the Matrix there as Edison re-shoots Storm arrows in. And a further stagger comes to Viper, who cannot catch a break so far on this defense. Dies initially to Edison as the fight breaks out. Dies once again as he respawns, so he'll be the first and last death for that particular fight. Mega unlucky as the payload will get some free movement here. Courtesy of Sparkle solo pushing. Edison about to have the Dragon Strike.
Rally still was unable to be used here. And Jin tries to take the high ground here. Split positioning from the Dragons. Jin just tries to get into position. Edison has just been that problem. He's uncontested. Sends out the Dragons, gives up that space. The dive attempt comes in from Fleta, but Edison's got some help. And it comes in the form of Bliss with the rally. Also had that shield bash immediately, having Fleta having that primal though. Felt confident enough to be able to try to push in, but into the line of sight of MCD, who gets that sleep, and then he can't even get away. He tries to jump and then he ragdolls up into the skies like a shooting star.
Outplay by MCD, outplayed by the Dallas Fuel in general. I mean, Fleta had to primal there. He was low. Ideally, he doesn't get slipped and he just boops a bunch of people off to the low ground. And the kills do not stop here for Dallas Fuel. Sparkle continuing on to Gundam Jin. I mean, a bunch of Dallas Fuel members actually got low HP. But they just stay up, they just stay alive. And for the DPS and the rest of Shanghai Dragons, for Viper, they just can't get anything done. Viper is consistently dead to Edison.
This is just a huge diff across the board. Edison and Sparkle both have 8 kills. Hisu and Viper are struggling right now. Still got that one Elam that we initially saw. Viper as well, who usually pops up, hasn't been able to have that opportunity because he's been actually trying to isolate Edison.
How is it happening again?
What?
How
Through that
times
window?
I think that's like 4 times in a row Edison has first picked Viper. It feels like it's been about 4 times in a row.
Fuming.
Viper can't catch a break. He really cannot catch a break versus Edison. This is looking a lot like the Charge versus Spark game where Jimmy was consistently sniping out lead. This looks exactly the same.
That was my favorite moment of view overall here. I mean, Hisu's gonna take not just a sleep dart, but also get sent right back to spawn. He's got the EMP, but it's literally been non-stop for this payload progress for the Dallas Fuel.
This is the second EMP, and the payload's already nearly halfway through C. And Dallas Fuel have 3 ultimates, nearly 4, and actually nearly 5. Bliss is gonna have the rally as well. Dragons have yet to really make any engagements happen. Viper's just happy to be alive at the moment.
Alright, progress out here. You find Bliss and Edison. Had to use a good amount just so that way they can make sure that high ground is already covered with that nano boost and the follow from Gundam Jin. Hisu does make the swap over to the Widow, but this is the stuff that they needed.
They actually could have staggered Sparkle there, who got slept, but it just comes straight away. You'd only be milking like 5 seconds anyway, but in any case, Shanghai Dragons, they just about need every second they can get with Hisu. Swiftly off the back of the Sombra EMP now into Widowmaker, the other of the Hisu specialties.
Dragons to clear that side area. The pulse bomb onto Gundam Jin though. Beautiful here from Sparkle. That would have been the rally. Could have come up for this next fight for the Dragons. I was about to get that primal here too.
Sparkle has a pulse bomb efficiency of 1.0, which means every pulse so far has at least landed a kill. Which is kind of insane. Every pulse has gotten value. Unfortunately not the case for Viper. Bit of an off day for Viper, sadly.
Characteristic and something that they can't afford here too. Diva bomb set up just to get that reset. Isu's still gonna be back here, gonna get some help from Gundam Jin. Fleta has to back away in time. He's taking way too much pressure here on the high ground. Someone needs to contest this payload here. This is actually insane. You got 2 minutes still on the clock.
Okay, here we go.
Alright, Hisu in the back after making that swap says, I'm tired of this. Say my name. It's enough about Edison this, Edison that. They finally put a stop to Fuel after being able to get so much progress on the payload non-stop.
Let the bullying commence. That was a lot less bullying than I expected. I thought they were going to bully Harmon a little bit more than that, but they'll let him go.
Have some mercy this time around.
This time, the actual timer is looking a little bit more rough. I think there should be about 2 more fights left for the Fuel. Edison's gone over towards the Sombra, as I'm sure the chat will be loving that. We'll see if they can cap. It's certainly not going to happen this fight. You'll be playing quite passively versus the Infrasight.
also forces a bit of a delay to build into that EMP that the Fuel really want, and that's also going to put a delay into their plans.
Viper gets his revenge.
And this is going to be open season for Viper, because now it's not going to be the Hanzo finding those sight lines to stop Viper from contesting them on the back line, and he won't have any protection here instead. So they finally get another cleanup here. Talk about that last team fight now that the Dallas Fuel have to work with into this next push.
Yeah, this is going to take a while. Dallas are going to have to wait till OT. I think at this rate, 50 seconds left to go. Still waiting on an EMP. Nano's going to be okay, but Dragons have just Rally Primal to work with, and Rally Primal allows you to stall for so long. Enough to get multiple respawn waves. Or rather, multiple players on a respawn wave.
Nano boost. The hack onto Urus here too. Put him to sleep. They wake him up right afterwards, but they lose out on an MCD right after he unleashed that Nano boost. No backline here for the Dallas Fuel. Yeah, both supports out. Sustainability left, but Hanbin is still fighting this KP out here too. That EMP coming in. It does find Fleta and Kisu. Big for the rest of the Fuel to at least try to finish this off. I mean, they have less than 10 seconds after all, and the Shanghai Dragons still have enough time to get through the spawn room.
It's cool that the EMP here looks fine, but the problem is the team is not there. So what if you EMP? Okay, you touched, great. So what if you EMP there? You're still waiting for double supports, and Shanghai Dragons have respawn advantage here. So you're just in a raw 5v5 now. And nothing really came out of that.
That switch was just not what the Fuel wanted here when they had so much out of the Hanzo originally, but I guess with limited sightlines here, you could have gotten him to the high ground. EMP now activated. It does find Hanbin, and it finds one of the supports here too over on the other side. Dallas Fuel now just trying to survive. Another hack onto MCD. Sparkle sends out that pulse bomb, but Viper and Ears are finding these kills now. They do lose out on Gundam Jin, but it's 4v2 at this point. Sparkle is trying so hard to stay alive, and with that sleep, that's going to be the nail in the coffin for the Dallas Fuel in their push.
You got to save the EMP for the final fight. Hisu had that right. EMP's in the final fight. Respawn advantage of the defense. Fairly cut and dry there for the Shanghai Dragons. And for the Dallas Fuel, I mean, they struggled to even touch. They could have just reset earlier, held on to ults, play for what is actually the final OT fight, and that's one that you want to pour all your ultimates into. Sparkle, let's take a look at some of his sticks. This was one of the several pulse kills that he got.
Oof.
Yep, nice one.
I love it.
Surprise Gundam Jin.
Giving him that special package over on the other side. Love how he was able to blink right on top of the high ground. Sparkle had a great last game. He only died 3 times there. Compared that to Hisu though, he only died once. And that was with the Dallas Fuel non-stop pushing that payload all the way to basically to that 3rd point. But the swap-ups from the Dallas Fuel weren't what I was expecting, at least. Seeing that they had to work into that EMP and then unfortunately misuse it at the very end for that final fight.
Still a lot of distance. I think you're not upset if you feel you don't cap, but enough distance that you can be happy with what you ended up getting over that 8 minutes. Shanghai Dragons on the offense, yeah. I don't think Viper will lock the Widowmaker, but it will just be an opening shot. Viper to go back to a Tracer, which means we're getting a pretty straightforward mirror matchup outside of the Hanbin Diva. Yeah, okay. I think maybe I much prefer the Edison Hanzo. I'm not gonna lie to you, but maybe Edison can prove us wrong here.
See what they want to work into at least. I wanted them to continue up that momentum. Hack attempt coming in from Hisu. This is out on the opportunity here. So getting into position to build into that EMP. It's going to be the race to the EMP between Edison and Hisu is going to be basically the matchup. Unless Viper could find something crazy now that he won't be harassed by Edison.
Well, Hisu's just straight farming at the moment. Whereas Edison's doing more setup plays. He's trying to set up a dive. But as that happens, Sparkle got caught, so... Yeah, no one really gets their dive off. Well, actually, Shanghai kind of does, but then they lose Fleta, so...
Man, survivability not there here. Once again, one of the first picks to go down. I'm getting onto the high ground here too, but that's going to have to be the disengage for right now from Dragon just to wait out and Fleta to come back.
I think Fleta got naded there, so again, MCD just outplays him. But Edison nearly had a dive combo there with Sparkle together, but Sparkle just hacked out at the exact same time by Hisu. So both the Sombras around the same area looking for targets. At this rate though, despite all of that, Edison is more than keeping up with Hisu in terms of EMP, so you're going to get them about the same time.
Sparkle holding the choke point. He's got that pulse bomb ready.
Oh,
gets put to sleep immediately afterwards. I love it. Immediate 180, and they were able to take care of Sparkle too. getting the follow-up. Su also is asleep. Nice anti and the EMP to get the follow-up into the backline of the Dragons. No supports left. Yisu manages to get away in time. Viper enters back with the pulse bomb, but with no sustainability here, he's going to be in some trouble unless he can get away in time.
Force Nano just to keep Harbin alive. Maybe they can convert off that. They do. Brilliant pick. That makes the Nano worth it. If they don't kill somebody like Fleta, the Nano feels like it's wasted, but just getting that, forcing the reset. Shanghai can't do anything else for the rest of this fight. Makes use of that Nano for a little bit of something. 2 minutes left now for the Dragons, and Payload is still roughly stuck. I mean, it's kind of in the open, but not really enough. It'll be Hisu's turn at EMP this time. Looking for backline, but can't see anybody outside of Harbin for now. Really wants to see MCD and Bliss, but MCD and Bliss are high ground.
Oh, and he's farming. He's farming. I mean, how do you get up to MCD at this point, too? That is going to be up to Edison, or rather, up to what it could do, but he keeps getting picked out first out here once again by Hanbin. But it's going to be so difficult to try to isolate them that you're basically unchecked up there.
Well, Hisu can just kind of solo dive them himself, just EMP the backline and try and get a kill that way. That's about all they can hope for. It'll take too long for Viper to sneak around. Fleta's no shot there. Fleta can really jump up there safely. So Dallas Fuel's support backline are in the perfect position that they need to be to survive up against the EMP. Dragons are about to sit on 5 ults, by the way. And usually that would be a good thing, but not on the attack when you've barely done anything.
And the EMP only onto Hanbin, while Bliss is able to take care of Viper before he can send out the pulse bomb. The rally comes in. Still, this leaves MCD and Bliss unchecked on the high ground once again. Stick came in earlier before it, and be coming in again. Not gonna be able to get the progress that they were expecting here. Playing very split up in general as the Dragons are looking to try to disengage here. Nana Boost here coming in, rather.
Oh, support's dead.
Oh, okay, we're getting the trade off from Viper. He is coming alive. The moment that we see the opportunity between Bliss dropping down, they're able to get that capitalization. MCD also trying to force his way back. Edison gets Fleta still here too. Nobody off the Diva Bomb clearing up that space, but you have less than 30 seconds now on the clock.
Well, Hanbin resets the mech, so he buys time off the back of that brilliant play. Make sure he stays alive as well. This is last fight territory. Hisu desperately needs an EMP. And the hack from Edison, survived upon by Viper, who's the target. So far, so good for the Dragons. Can they get a pick, though?
It's here. Got less than 5 seconds. Forcing it into overtime. Oh, gotta help him. Get right back in. Overtime forced in. But it felt incredibly low. Ooh, nice hack here, too. And the EMP on top of that. Finds 4 in the process. Edison manages to get away. No capitalization, no picks off of that. Would have been absolutely huge. MCD even got put to sleep too. Nice nade. Onto Sparkle and Hanbin. Full sent out here too. Hanbin eats Viper's pulse. Here's gets hit with another anti. No bodies left from the Dragons. Overtime ticking away as the fuel clear out the payload. Dallas looking to wrap this up as quickly as possible with a 3-0 Overwatch and taking the Shanghai Dragons over in Junkertown.
You can see the elation on the faces. They know, I mean, how important it is for them to get their first season win. Bliss, as in his rookie year as well, this is his first one in Overwatch League for MCD on what he could only hope to be his comeback year after a couple of rough years on different teams. We'll get his first one of the season on the brand new Dallas Fuel. And for the rest of the players on Dallas Fuel, just building that confidence back in, and what a way to do it off the back of a 3-0. I mean, that was looking pretty tricky for them towards the end. Like, they might not have won that last fight. So many low members of the Dallas Fuel. EMP, multiple members, antied out by Eris as well. I saw basically the entire team of the Dallas Fuel below 50% HP, but no one died. They all stayed alive, and Shanghai Dragons could not finish them off. Sparkle gets a stick onto Fleta, chunks him down. Fleta dies, and that's the beginning of the end.
And it happened multiple times too with that entry point that we saw, the attempt at least coming in from the Shanghai Dragons, and the positioning between MCD and Bliss was also beautiful from the Dallas Fuel. Like we were highlighting it throughout that match, it's so difficult to find an opportunity to not only find a way to dive onto that back line, but Fleta can't get up there safely unless he gets nano boosted and then purposely focuses that. Hisu and Viper are too busy trying to find different off angles, and they still have to worry about Bliss being able to protect MCD. But the Shanghai Dragons, they tried their best. We all bought into the stocks last week, and we have to give the MVP player of the match to Edison because, my goodness, that Hanzo was looking absolutely fresh.
I mean, especially when you take down last week's player of the match from the Dragons in terms of Viper, not once, but consistently multiple times in a row. You'll see it here in the highlights, I'm sure. Edison's Hanzo was the hero, the player on that hero to get Dallas Field everything they needed and more. It was a brilliant team play generally, especially to start out with on the brawl compositions. that's definitely a team effort. But after that, I mean, Edison pulled more than his own weight for the rest of the maps.
Actually insane. Obviously, my favorite is seeing what he was able to put together on Hollywood. He was finding so many of those different spots. We saw it continue on through Junkertown and then the swap up and the confidence over the change that we saw from Dallas Fuel continued on to the very end there and getting that EMP online as quickly as he possibly can here. But we have to give it to Edison for all the right reasons. He was fighting all those headies, very consistent. Would love to see the stat percentage actually of the amount of headshots that he was able to get in those last 2 maps. But Dallas Fuel getting that first dub is absolutely huge here because we saw him lose to the Soul Inferno, we saw him lose to the Hunter Spark, and to the Guangzhou Charge. Really heavy-hitting teams out here. And versus the Shanghai Dragons, there was a lot on the line to at least prove for the Dallas Fuel to see which of these teams ended up being in the bottom half of APAC.
It started so clean as well. I mean, it retained its cleanliness for most of the matchup, but especially in that first map. I just think the broad composition, even the Ryan, Hambin, not traditionally a Ryan player, but did well on it. But then you start to see what happens on Hollywood, and the frags start coming in. It's like we're watching a Jimmy highlight reel, but this time it's Edison really making a believer out of everybody in terms of the Hanzo. If you weren't convinced yet that Hanzo was brilliant in this meta from watching Jimmy play, Edison should seal that deal for you, especially with these picks. Viper, again, just had no shot this match.
What's extra funny is that their next matchup, and their last matchup, obviously, it's going to be versus the Seoul Dynasty, and seeing how they were able to play against the Shanghai Dragons, what does this mean? What's in store for us for that next matchup? We can take a look at some of these nice highlight clips from Edison.
So
Man,
good.
Constantly finding Viper. I was seething for Viper. As somebody who loves Tracer, every single angle that Viper tried to take, there was nowhere safe if you were in Edison's line of sight. Even the EMP here, too, finding the backline was absolutely huge. It's a follow from the rest of the team, but it was beautiful. Even that last bit from Hanbin where he was able to eat Viper's pulse bomb was very nicely done. Dallas Fuel just looks so put together here for this fight.
That's this fight here specifically that you're talking about. Edison as well, as I want to say, like, you know, had numerous pulse bomb sticks that really made the difference for this Dallas team. Chunk down Flitter there as well. We're not going to get any stats for headshots, but as far as Hanzo damage done, this is, well, Hanzo stats generally speaking, this is for the entirety of the match, so not quite per 10. I mean, he played this for 2 maps, I think, roughly 2 maps. He didn't play any Hanzo map 1, so he played Sombra for a little bit of Junkertown as well, so you'll say like 1.5 map, because half of Junkertown was Hanzo, the other half was Sombra, and then basically all of Hollywood was Hanzo. So this is stats across 1.5 maps.
Literally 37 elims out here, 22 final blows, limited deaths out here. I mean, he did have 12 deaths. Survivability was definitely up there. He did prioritize a lot of that high ground positioning, as he should, of course, especially on Hollywood. But he was really popping off out here for the Dallas Fuel. I do believe do have an interview coming up, which, side note, absolutely love now that we can incorporate these interviews, get to know some more of these players and their thought process while they go into these games. Especially want to know how the Dallas Fuel are feeling after taking that first dub and what that means leading up to their next matchup here as we get set up.
That'll be their final match for this regular season qualifiers you mentioned before they head into the bracket stage, the knockout stage versus the contenders teams as well. And you know, that could be a long, difficult journey for the Dallas Fuel, considering how good both the Joe teams are, considering that Infernal is still around the corner as well. Infernal made mincemeat of Dallas Fuel in their particular matchup, and Infernal still in a position to sneak away with maybe a top 2 even finish here in the qualifier. Infernal could be a sneaky team that I was going to watch out for. But if there's a time for the Dallas Fuel to find their groove and to really start leveling up, I mean, now would be better late than never. Surely you wouldn't want to wait till the Seoul game, which happens very shortly. I mean, that's tomorrow, is it, I believe. So yeah, it is. Dallas go back to back here. No breaks for Dallas Fuel. Ideally for Dallas, they got to win both, because if they just win the one game, they're going to be a bottom seed. And I don't know how the brackets are going to look, but you never want to be the bottom seed in any of those brackets, and you especially don't want to be looking weak for contenders teams to come in and perhaps get one over you, especially with the defending champions. So, long time due here for the Dallas Fuel to start leveling up.
I'm talking about what we could see for that next matchup and seeing what we just witnessed right now. What are your thoughts so far on Hanbin and that Winston? I mean, working into that dive comp a little bit better and trying to see what they could do in this series now into their next series. You think that they're going to be able to build up that confidence and that momentum going into their final game?
I don't even think that Hanbin should really play the Winston. He's much better on the D.Va. He's an excellent D.Va player, maybe one of the best, if not the best. You can still use D.Va as a nano target, so you're not really lacking in that department. I think the only thing that Winston really does much better than D.Va is Primal's a much better ultimate than Self-Destruct. But beyond that, you could argue that dropping the bubble is more effective for actually getting a pick on a dive, which compared to Matrix, I would agree with that. So there are some differences, but Harbin is so good on the D.Va, I don't think he needs to force Winston. Actually, when they played the Winston, it was just okay. Versus the Flitter Winston, I don't think there's going to be any issues for Harbin. But, you know, if Harbin has to go up against some of the really good Winstons again, that could be problematic. You got to play to your strengths, and for the Dallas field, their strengths, to me, should be like D.Va, Hanzo, some Ramatra comps, maybe Junker Queen comps, some Ryan stuff, some, you know, Brawl, some Rush. Play what they're good at, and then Dallas field can succeed. But if they try and force things that, I mean, I think they should practice the other comps as well, but they're just too far behind to beat teams like the Guangzhou Charge or the Hangzhou Spark on the real good dive comps.
Speaking of the Guangzhou Charge, looking on the other side of this coin as we get set up with our interview, I want to reel back real quick to the Shanghai Dragons. We talk about the last matchup that we're going to see for the Fuel. I mean, the Shanghai Dragons, their last match after today is going to be the Guangzhou Charge. And
okay.
Yeah.
That's unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, it was going to happen eventually here. And since that is going to be happening soon this weekend, I'm sure if it's tomorrow or the day afterwards, but I was expecting maybe some change-ups here to the way that Fleta was going to open things up on his tank, but a few times, a lot of those entered picks were onto Fleta, especially on Winston, where he didn't have a get-out-of-jail option. He didn't have the jump, unfortunately. So I want to see something get put together here for the Dragons, because obviously it's doable. We saw it already last week, but against the Guangzhou Charge, it's not going to be quick enough, in my opinion.
I mean, even if Dragons did much better, you're going up against the Charge, who at this stage look infallible in this region. So unless Charge somehow lose to Infernal tomorrow despite being the favored team, I'm expecting Charge to go flawless this stage. It's looking like both Charge and Atlanta Reign are going to be flawless in their respective regions, maybe not even dropping a single map, again, pending what happens to Atlanta versus Houston and what happens to Guangzhou versus Infernal. Shanghai Dragons, though, yeah, this is looking like a 1-4 stage for them. Dallas Field as well, if they don't beat the Seoul Dynasty. Could also be a 1-4 stage. And for the Seoul Dynasty, speaking of, they might even have a 1-4 stage if they lose to the Dallas Field. I mean, they beat, the Infernal on day one, and that so far has been the only win. So, a little bit poor down the bottom there for some of the teams. Shanghai, Dallas, Seoul, those are the teams that need help.
Teams that we got to see what went down. And for those of you guys just tuning in right now, we get set up here. First series, so the Dynasty versus the Spark. Spark did take that 3-1. Very interesting Sean Volley map run, by the way. Definitely recommend you guys check that out if you guys are just now tuning in. But Seoul being one of the other squads, or the other teams that we need to really highlight to really find some of that success. And now they only have the Dallas Fuel to face off against that we keep highlighting in that last matchup that they both have.
Yeah, I mean, at this rate, it seems like outside of... I still think Dallas versus Dynasty could be a close one. Dallas looked much better today, but Seoul had some reasonable moments versus Hangzhou. Definitely pushed Hangzhou to the limit. Guangzhou versus Infernal is the match of the week. Actually, either of the two Infernal matches. Infernal got two really big matches versus two Zhou teams. Either of those two could be the match of the week. Guangzhou versus Shanghai will... I'm not going to lie. Sadly for Shanghai, probably a bit of a freebie for Guangzhou. For Shanghai, though, I mean, what else can they really do? The biggest question is, like, what else can they play? I don't think there's much else they can play, because the issue is, if you think about your other players outside of Fleta, instead of covering for Fleta's weaknesses, highlight the strength of your other players, namely your DPSs. What are they good at? Viper's good at Genji, which is not in the meta, so we can't play that. What else is he good at? Traces. You want to play Tracer comps. What is Hisu good at? Widowmaker and Sombra. So you play Tracer Sombra. But anyway, enough about that.
Hi, so can you introduce yourself to the fans? I'm Edison, doing the hit scan DPS for Dallas Fuel. How do you like your performance today?
좀 아쉬웠던 부분은 할리우드가 좀 아쉬웠었는데 그래도
I think we have a lot of things to improve, especially on Hollywood, but we're working out things one by one, and we got to win, and that's what matters.
너무 쉽게 뚫린 게 아닌가라는 생각을
I think we gave point B a little bit too easily, but so that's something that we can definitely improve on.
모든 우리 그 분들이 만장일치로 POTM을 좀 뽑았는데 에디슨 선수의 뭐
So the Korean production had a player of the match vote, and everyone, it was an unanimous vote for Edison. How do you feel, getting the POTM on the east side of the league?
팀도 몇 개 팀이었고 그래도 이제 한국에서 처음으로 하는 거니까
So
기쁜 마음으로
it's kind of new, but I'm also really happy because, although there's fewer teams in the east, it is in Korea, my homeland. So I'm participating in the east side of the league while being very happy.
일단은 제가 손보라를 잘 기억 못하는 것도 있고 그리고 손보라보다는 한조가 더 잘하는 것 같아서
So what's the reason behind you playing Hanzo? Hanzo is, well, I mean, I'm not the best Sombra in the world, so definitely my preference goes to Hanzo than the Sombra.
어려웠을 때의 선수들이 받는 압박감 뭐 이런 것들은 좀 어땠나요?
So you've been struggling a little bit. So how do you feel how are you dealing with the pressure?
팀원들끼리 다독이면서
Well, I mean, of course, it's definitely difficult, but you know, we're trying to stay as a team, cuddling each other, having our hopes up, and we're taking it one by one.
네, 이제 내일 경기도 준비를 잘해서
We'll definitely prepare well for tomorrow's match as well and get a better result.
일단은 쉬고 이제 시간 이제 곧 오니까
First up, I'm just gonna, rest up a little bit and recharge so that I can play to my full 100%.
이제 현장 경기하면 좀 많이 좀 다른가요?
The question was, tomorrow is a land match, so how are you preparing differently for that?
빨리 어떻게 긴장을 빨리 푸느냐 그거에 따라서
I think land matches are all about nerves. So whether if we can shake our nerves off and play at our normal selves will be the main issue.
조금 어색하긴 하지만은 그래도
엄청
네,
솔직한데요.
그렇죠. 있는 그대로만 얘기합니다. 함께 좀
It is a little bit awkward though.
네, 알겠습니다. 그리고 지금 많은 분들 댈러스 피어를 사랑하시는 많은 분들이 좀 막 응원하면서 좀 힘든 부분도 있으셨을 텐데 오늘의
So the fans will be as struggling. I mean, will be a little bit disappointed as well as much as you guys are. So do you have anything to say to the fans?
하지만은 그래도 저희 더 열심히 해서 앞으로도 좋은 모습 많이 보이도록.
Well, this is just the start, but I'll make sure that we'll repay you with better performances starting from now on.
댈러스의 동부 점령기 정복기는 오늘부터 시작이다라고 말씀을 드렸습니다. 여기에 대해서 답장을 한번 들어보고 싶어요. 가능할까요?
열심히 하도록 하겠습니다.
솔직한데요.
정석이네요. 네, 알겠습니다. 이렇게 해서 에디슨 선수요. 다시 한번 또 축하드리고요. 댈러스의 앞으로도
Well, congratulations, Edison, and I'll look forward to your performances.
에디슨 선수였습니다.
Thank you.
인터뷰도 너무 잘하고 피해가는 것도 그냥 인터뷰의 정석이었어요.
저렇게 약간
Alrighty. Thank you, Unknown, for the translation on the interview. I don't know about you, Vicky, but I'm down for some Dallas Fuel cuddling. I got jealous over there. Medals confirmed.
I love it.
like
You can
to hear.
also hear how happy he is to be right back in the East, but also the pressure that competing live and letting down fans feel. So this is going to be literal fuel for them to take away from this opportunity of taking this first dub and then trying to transfer that into a live setting tomorrow.
Look at that. Dallas Fuel go from 6th place to 4th place in one win. Because the map differential, I mean, it does count for something here. They got a clean 3-0. They've taken maps before. They took one map versus Hangzhou Spark, and does count, and clearly here they're -5 instead of -6 or -7. It's the 3 teams at bottom, just with the 1 team each. But you take those, I mean, everyone's got to win. What we say here in the East region, Vicky, is that, you know, even the bottom teams, they can be competitive. Everyone beats everybody. There's no freebies out here. There's no 0 team Andes. Everyone's at least got the single win.
You know what, Avril? If there's one thing that APAC has always taught me, and especially in the last 2 years, like literally anything could happen with these teams. Every team counters each other's to one extent, and that's what we're going to be able to witness out here. That's why I'm excited to see how the rest of this final weekend plays out.
And the rest of the final weekend will include the Fuel versus Dynasty matchup, the Infernal versus Charge matchup tomorrow, of which the Fuel Dynasty game is going to be played on LAN in the WDG studio here. The Korean casters were. We saw several shots of that earlier today. So a fantastic LAN match. It'll be the second one for Fuel, and I believe maybe second or third one for Dynasty now. That'll be the second one as well. And then, of course, Infernal versus Charge for Infernal's opportunity to maybe catch up here. There could be a potential for an upset win here for Infernal. If they get that upset win versus Charge, there is a world where Infernal can sneakily overtake first place and climb up in the rankings. Still open.
Be absolutely hard here too, seeing how this next match is going to be dealing up with everything for day number 2 here for that final week. But wow, that was a good showing for our first day and for the opening of the last week for our Eastern teams to really pop off. Avril, it's been a good time so far. No, it's lit over by me. I'm pretty sure, I don't know what time it is over you, but it's out here, man. I love watching APAC, and I like to see how the dynamics show off against each other. But nonetheless, also seeing the interviews with the players that we get to engage with, get to know them a lot more, and see how they feel, because that's something that I mean, personally, I love bridging the emotions and the personality of these players into the audience, because we don't really get to see that side of these players other than their competitive nature and their drive. And even when it comes to nerves, we talked about it, I think, once throughout the series about how it feels different to play on stage. And we heard it from Edison himself. He was popping off out here on the feed. You saw what he was able to do with the Hanzo, landing those headies. But now they have one more series in store for them. That's going to be happening tomorrow live. Hopefully they are able to get everything together. They feel good. They feel refreshed, and they can take this win and carry it on to the next day. And of course, we also still have a lot more action for you guys on Sunday. You definitely do not want to miss out on that. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Avril, for joining me. I'm Vicky Kitty. This is Avril. Guys, don't forget to tune in, because we got some more matches later on throughout the day in North America. Thank you for watching.